So yesterday, in my previous video, but I tried to show you the sunset, the scenery, and I failed spectacularly. But this is a glorious Yorkshire morning. I'm even going to zoom slowly, beautifully rotating forms of renewable energy, which some people think are an eyesore. My argument is seeing your towns destroyed by floods or your coastal lines disappear into the sea, that's an eyesore. That's not an eyesore. That's beautiful technology giving us a future. Anyway, politics aside. Okay, this is I've learned also that I'm recording off of this, not off the headphones that I was around my neck, so I don't have to throttle myself with my headphones. My dog is sniffing around. I wanted to do a short video just to kind of give you something to focus upon. What I was really thinking about was why, as actors, there's a tendency to be very needy and confused and second guess the industry and audition tapes and so on and so forth. And the inevitable thing is that no, this is all wrong. Okay, this is a kind of a short piece that I'm trying to focus on something that you can do and you could do today. One of the biggest problems I think with acting is that you're always second guessing what you should do rather than working out what you would like to do. And this is a kind of exercise to focus upon developing, which is the most central component of being an actor, which is your opinion about the work in action. Acting is not just about being, it's not about emotion, it's not about just being real, right? Acting is a construct of your ideas in action. And the biggest thing that's going to shape that construct is your opinion and thoughts about the character. And so what I wanted you to do, what I wanted to play with is the magic if. And the magic if goes right back to Stanislavski. And the initial magic if was, what would I do if I were the character? A very great student of Stanislavski's who became a very great teacher, who sadly couldn't contribute as much because they died of cancer, was Eugene Vartangov. And he adapted this statement to, what do I, the actor, need to do to appear as if I am the character? So it gave it more focus towards the character than really simply just me. Stanislavski was trying to allow the imagination and a more organic relationship to the given circumstances to come alive with the concept of the magic if. The real reality about acting is even more, why does the character do what the character does? We don't need to know what I would do if I were the character because it tells me in the script, right? And just doing what the character does, to say, well, the character is sad or bored or this, that's not enough. You have to work out why. And to work out why, you have to learn how to think like the character, or try and acquire some understanding of why the character does what they do and why they think what they think. So the way to do this is to pick a character. Now, again, you would have to go back to good writing. And in my opinion, most of the great writing, most of it, is in the 20th century, particularly from a contemporary perspective. And so you need to kind of reach out and pick a great playwright of the 20th century. It's always something you should be doing anyway as an actor, is reading. The power of the actor, the music of the actor is the word, right? If you can't wrap your head around that, you're just going to be constantly trying to overcompensate by being spectacular, emotional, whatever it is. Great actors always really have grounded opinions in the material, really involved relationships to approaching and developing the material. So, pick a playwright. Authur Miller, Chekhov, Pinter, you reach out there. David Mamet, whoever, right? You pick a playwright, and ideally you read about 5 of their plays just to get a style of their writing, okay? But inevitably, you zero in on a character, and ideally you should pick somebody who you kind of equate to, or alternatively, pick someone you just don't get. That's probably a better exercise. because it's going to make you stretch harder. All right. And then what you need to do is look at the given circumstances. Now, remind yourself, the given circumstances are events. They are facts that correlate into the given circumstances. So, for instance, if we were to pick Authur Miller's A View from a Bridge, and you were looking at Authur, the solicitor that Eddie Carbone goes to and talks to about his trials and tribulations, the given circumstances is that Authur is an immigrant, naturalized within the United States of America. He lives within a certain community. He clearly deals with a lot of people. They don't just turn to him for legal advice. They're a place to go with problems. So inevitably, Authur is a person that thinks differently from you, particularly like actors, because Authur has to use logic. He has to use the law. He has to consider what is tangibly winnable in a court of law, or how to defend somebody, and so on and so forth. So how to resolve disputes rather than conquer, for instance. So see, again, his mindset is different than maybe yours or mine. Particularly, his mindset is different than Eddie Carbone in the play. So one of the things to do, take that for instance, if I'm working on Authur, and you can increasingly do this, but look at any given circumstances, and instead of just having your own intuitive, organic, or habitual response to it, think how would I resolve this situation, right? Or who has the, you might even want to study a little bit of law, for instance. That's a little bit more, requires more kind of scholastic interaction with, contract, and what does that mean, and blah, 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 blah. But again, how do I, when I deal with a given circumstance, right, how do I, for instance, set up my work environment? Look at how you set up a desk or whatever. It might be messy, it might be very anal, right? How would Authur do it? Why does he wear what he wears, for instance? How does he consider how he speaks and how he communicates, right? If I'm bringing, for instance, conclusion, a positive conclusion, right, between two parties, I'm not going to use aggressive, provocative language, and I'm not going to deal with my body in such a way. I'm going to deal with it differently. So the important thing is pick any character and consider why they do what they do, find their logic, and then play with their logic in your day-to-day activities. Now, lockdown is beginning to ease. You are going out more, you're seeing things more, right? You might observe things. So you might begin to start to think, how would they do things? How would they construct a sentence? How would they use the tonality of their language? How would they sit and, for instance, eat a sandwich? I mean, even something as mundane, once you start to say, well, if I scoff food, right, and it goes everywhere. There's no way if I was Authur I would deal with that. One of the reasons, again, is that food in his time was genuinely, particularly good quality food, was genuinely not something that was abundantly around. It was something you savored and enjoyed. Someone took time on it, so you may take time with it. So again, you may even actually just slow down with a sandwich, or you may slow down with the sunshine around you, or whatever it may well be. So again, what you're doing, and this is the whole reason I've set this exercise if you want to play with it, is I'm beginning to develop the way they see the world, and then I might understand why they do what they do. So it ties back into when I'm doing an audition tape, or when I'm on set, or when I'm playing with the character, I'm no longer trying to act. I'm no longer trying to find the emotional center to the, I'm trying to just do a sense memory to cry. I'm beginning to understand logic, motivation, need, relationship. And so actually, if I tie into these perspectives, if I've embedded them in my instrument more, when I get to do the material, I may not have to worry about my acting. My body wants me to act. So as I say, it's the important thing is there's no point giving you a vlog about ideas which are stimulating intellectually but don't give you something to play with. Look at the perspective through the character. Look through the world through their eyes and consider how they choose to do things. If you do that, you will then begin to find thoughts, impulses and emotions which are logical to them rather than logical to you. It's no different, to be honest, than when you start a job. You first walk in the job with no concept of what you have to do for the job. Once they teach you what to do and what to think about, you work and think differently. I'll end on this note. I remember seeing an interview with a guy with Special Forces, and they said, what's the difference between you and me? And he said, well, every time I walk into the room, the first thing I assess as a Special Forces person is what's the most dangerous implement I could use to kill you with, if need be. because he was trained to understand that survival was so paramount. Particularly special forces have to improvise with circumstances. They may run out of ammunition, they might not get picked up after enemy lines, they have to be incredibly adaptable, so they have to deal with the surrounding environment in a very different way than you or I deal with. And of course, that one truth, strangely enough, could change quite considerably how you work with material. Once I played a police officer, and I really worked out that actually playing the police officer wasn't about being dramatic, but it was actually about understanding what is the primary focus of an officer, which is the consumption and observation of facts. Because facts inevitably are going to be possibly presented in the court of law, or facts are how I assess what my actions should be if I'm a decent police officer. And that's a debatable issue, but as you can see, logic changes behavior. You can't make your emotions change your behavior, right? What you have to consider is the framework of the character, and the framework of the character is logic, it's given circumstances. So pick up a script, pick up a character, look at it, and try to work out why they do the things that they do, and then start playing with the logic that motivates why they do what they do, and see what you find. Enjoy.